What's going on, Alabama fans? Coming up on today's show, we're talking field storming and what Greg Byrne thinks can be the solution to stop fans from rushing the field. Also going to be talking about some new developments regarding NIL and what state of Alabama lawmakers are trying to do to get institutions in the state of Alabama a competitive advantage when it comes to NIL. But let me know here in the comment section, would you guys ever storm the field? If Alabama was unranked and they beat the number one team in the country, does that cause for a field storming event in your opinion? Type 1 for yes or N for no if you guys would storm the field in any kind of case for an Alabama sporting event. First up, Greg Byrne, just like I talked about a second ago, suggested that teams should be forced to forfeit wins for storming the field and or a court, if you're talking basketball as well, after wins. Now, right now, the SEC institutes a $100,000 fine for the first offense. For the second offense, it goes up to $250,000. And for the third offense, it goes to $500,000. And if there's a fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever, it continues to be $500,000 from that. Let's look at what Greg Byrne said about his proposition about stopping fans from storming the field. He said, I think from a safety standpoint, keeping people off the field and courts is a good thing for everybody involved. If we said that the home team, if they storm the field or the court, they're going to lose the game right then and there, and that would stop it. I'm not overly optimistic, and I understand it's not a popular opinion in a lot of people's views. I'll get I'll get criticized for it, and that's okay. I do believe in it. If somebody can come up with something that's a better idea that does not include that, I am all for that. Now, this, in my opinion, it affects Alabama more in terms of football. Maybe right now with basketball getting a little bit better, it could possibly affect basketball later on down the road. But every single time Alabama loses a game, the opposing fans storm the field. It happened at the Tennessee game this year. It happened at the Vanderbilt game, the Oklahoma game as well this season. This is why I say the dynasty isn't dead until teams stop storming the field against Alabama, because beating Alabama is still an unthinkable task to these teams. And the fan bases, in my opinion, are just admitting by storming the field that they didn't think that they would win the game in the first place. My opinion as well, I think safety for players should be the most important thing when it comes to the SEC or any other conference out there. Greg Byrne's first pitched this idea after Wake Forest rushed the court against Duke last season. Yet Duke star Kyle Filipowski was injured during that court storming event. Last year, you also saw Caitlin Clark was also injured during a court storming event. Fans, they get onto the court or they get onto the field and they get up in these players' faces and things end up happening. And it's not good for the fans or the players or just college sports in general. We all remember back to the drama surrounding Jermaine Burton with that Tennessee game. He face-palmed that girl. As he was coming off the field, she got up in his face, and, people got all up in arms about Jermaine Burton in that incident. Whether that was right or not, they wanted him to be punished, and Nick Saban came out and said that there was a whole lot more to that story than just him, pushing the girl in the face or whatever you want to call it there. It just creates this, mess when it comes to fans storming the field and the court that I think we can really do a better job of preventing. And this is how I feel about field/court storming just in general. I think that you should only be able to rush the field or the court if your team is unranked and you beat a top 5 team. That's it. Otherwise, it just diminishes the actual importance of a field storming type of occasion. I'm not trying to be this old stay off my lawn type of grandpa type of thing. I think storming the field and storming the court can be fun in different types of situations, but when you have, the number 10 ranked team beats the number 1 ranked team, that really does just diminish the whole fun part, in my opinion, about storming the field or the court in general. Clemson goes out there, they meet at the paw after every single game. They say it's after every single win or loss. It doesn't matter, but for the most part, they only do it after wins. So frankly, I think they should be embarrassed because of that. So let me know here at the pinned comment of today's video, guys. Should teams have to forfeit wins over some kind of field/court storming event? Type Y for yes or N for no at the pinned comment of today's video. That ad's going to come here on YouTube. That is totally fine. You guys can ignore it. Get down there to the comment section and let me know what you guys think. Next up, we're going to talk about an NIL tax bill introduced in the state of Alabama, and this could really create a competitive advantage for Alabama institutions when it comes to recruiting. Now, I say, honestly, just make it no income tax across the board. I think that would be absolutely amazing, and everybody would be on board with that, but that is just me. So we're going to talk about that here in just a second, but first, we want to give a shout out to our friends over at Fanatics. You guys can get up to 50% off on Alabama hoodies right now just by going to chatsports.com/CFB hoodies. They've got hoodies, they've got quarter zips, crew necks, everything like that. So check them out. There should be a little clickable link over there in the corner of the video. So go check them out. You guys can get up to 50% off on Alabama hoodies just by going to chatsports.com/CFB hoodies. Now, the state of Alabama state representative Joe Lovvorn introduced legislation on Tuesday that would make NIL earnings, exempt from Alabama state income tax. And this could create a competitive advantage for Alabama institutions when it comes to recruiting, because if recruits are promised NIL dollars, they would have to not pay taxes on those NIL dollars. Georgia also introduced a similar bill earlier this month. Right now, Alabama, I think compared to kind of the rest of the country, they've got relatively a lower state income tax, anywhere from 2 to 5%. But there are 5 teams right now in the SEC that have no state income tax at all. You got Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Florida, Texas, and Texas A&M, because you have Tennessee, Florida, and Texas. Those states don't have a state income tax. So, right now, if this were to be enacted, if it were to be passed into law, the legislation would go into effect on October 1st, 2025, and it would be applied retroactively back to January 1st, 2025. So if somebody signed an NIL deal on January 1st, and this doesn't get applied until October, they would then not have to pay taxes on those NIL dollars that they earned before it actually went into effect. Also, this would be remaining in effect until 2027. So let me know here in the comments section, should athletes have to pay state income tax on NIL earnings? Type T if you think we should tax them, or type E if you think there should be an exception to this NIL, dollars that these athletes are getting. Now, the NCAA president, Charlie Baker, also continues to lobby on Capitol Hill for a federal NIL bill. Now, normally, I don't really agree with almost anything that the NCAA does, but NIL has really gotten out of hand the last couple of seasons. Deion Sanders suggested a pay scale so players can't get swooned after just a year or two with a team. For example, freshmen can possibly only get up to a max of $100,000. Sophomores, possibly a max of $250,000. Junior, maybe they make $1 million. I actually do like that idea, because NIL wasn't supposed to be pay for play by these collectives that you've seen now over the past couple of years that have formed. I really wish that the collectives weren't a thing, just in general. You just have these big donors that come in, and they are just buying players, whether that's out of the high school, recruiting ranks, or players that are already on teams. They're trying to get them away from the teams that they're already on from going through these by going through these back channels. It's just constant free agency right now in college football, and that, in my opinion, and I know a lot of people out there as well feel the same way, it's just not a good thing at the end of the day. NIL literally stands for name, image, and likeness, not pay for play. It was really meant for players to be able to go out there and make money off their jersey sales, signing autographs, doing different types of camps and things like that, signing endorsement deals. I look at a guy like Arch Manning. Now, sure, his family doesn't need the money, so I do acknowledge that, NIL is kind of different for him, because you got some of these kids that are coming out of the slums and, they're trying to make a difference for their family, and I totally, appreciate that and understand that. But when you look at a guy like Arch Manning, he almost wasn't even in the NCAA game because he said, his family's rule was he wasn't going to take an NIL deal until he was made a starter at Texas. And, it wasn't even a big NIL deal for that. Players only got about $1,500 for that getting in the NCAA 25 game. But now, you've seen him recently now on TV doing commercials. He's been doing commercials with Red Bull. You saw Bryce Young a few years ago. He had his sponsorships with Longhorn Steakhouse. And as much as I hate to promote it, I absolutely hate Taco Casa. But you look at a guy like Will Conformi, he's doing partnerships with local businesses as well. Some of these top recruits are doing some of these trading cards now, which I do think that is a real cool opportunity for those guys as well. Those are the kinds of NIL opportunities that were supposed to be provided, not just this pay for play crap that we've been seeing here recently. Now, another thing that we have to kind of keep an eye on here in the next couple of months, the House versus the NCAA settlement. Now, that right now is expected to start on July 1st, but that still has to kind of go through some final approval processes as well. Revenue sharing would allow institutions to share about $20 million over those institutions, about $15 to $17 million of those dollars going to just football in general. So I would love this to kind of turn into some kind of salary cap for the NFL. You have open source deals, kind of like how professional sports has as well. And everybody knows how much everybody is making, and honestly, it makes it easier to report on as well. But everything that happens everything that happens is going to turn into a lawsuit when it comes to the NCAA and the players. And honestly, the players the last few seasons have been absolutely undefeated when it comes to suing the NCAA. So my biggest question right now is the NCAA even relevant in college football anymore? I think you can make an argument for some of these other sports, college basketball, baseball, softball, things like that as well. But when it comes to football, I don't even know if the NCAA is relevant anymore, and I don't think they have any kind of say-so in regards to saying what these players can and cannot do. When it comes to that, time's just going to have to tell. Make sure you guys are subscribed right here to the Alabama Football Report. We're going to be doing Alabama football, also some Alabama basketball videos as well. Crimson Tide going up against Auburn on Saturday. That's going to be a big game, 1 versus 2, 1 versus 1 if you're talking about the coaches poll and the AP poll as well. So we're going to do a video on that on Saturday as well. So do not miss out. Make sure you guys are subscribed.